Hello and welcome to Byju's Exam Prep IAS. Before we start with our today's analysis, a quick general reminder. Byju's Exam Prep IAS has already launched its official Telegram channel. If you have not yet joined the channel, please do join so that you get all the current affairs related updates. Let's get started and look into the first article. The first article says, how is India planning to end child marriage? Let us try and understand what is this article all about. We have one of the international programs called as the Global Program to End Child Marriage. This happens to be a joint initiative of United Nations Population Fund and the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, and this seeks to promote the rights of adolescents to delay the marriage. Basically, this is one of the programs initiated by these two partner organizations for what? To avert marriage and pregnancy, enable these women and children to achieve their aspirations. How? Through the education as well as the alternative pathways. So identifying all those women who may go through the child marriage, stopping it, delaying the marriage, and ultimately giving them the tool of education so that they can aspire to achieve their goals is the major objective of global program to end child marriage. When we look into India, we have some important data. In India, child marriage was reduced from 47.4% in 2005 and 6 to 26.8% in 2015 and 16, registering a decline of 21 percent points during the decade. In last 5 years, it declined by 3.5% to reach 23.3% in 2020 and 21, according to the latest National Family Health Survey 5 data. This basically means that for the past few decades, what we have been able to minimize is the number of child marriages because India has been able to prevent it. We have the steering committee of the global program to end child marriage who are on the visit to India basically to understand how India has transformed its country and to implement this particular protocol in some other country. Let's look at the data when it comes to the global level. According to data from UNICEF, the total number of girls married in childhood stands at 12 million per year, and the progress must be significantly accelerated in order to end the practice by the year 2030, the target set out in the Sustainable Developmental Goals. Without further acceleration, more than 150 million additional girls will marry before they turn 18 by 2030. With this data in picture, what they are trying to articulate is that if we do not take enough number of steps going forward, what we will witness is more number of child marriages that can happen in the near future. While it is encouraging that in the past decade great progress has been made in South Asia, where a girl's risk of marrying before she is 18 has dropped by more than third from nearly 50% to below 30%, it is not enough and progress has been uneven. What is the stand in India? What is the data with respect to child marriages in India? There is a growing trend for decline in the overall prevalence of child marriage, but 23.3% is still a disturbingly high percentage in a country with a population of 141.2 crores. How has it been divided within the state? Among the bigger states, West Bengal and Bihar have the highest prevalence of girl child marriage. States with a large population of tribal poor have a high prevalence of child marriage. Let's take for example Jharkhand. 32.2% of women in the age bracket of 20 to 24 got married before 18, according to NFHS 5. Infant mortality rate stood at 37.9%, and 65.8% of the women in 15 to 19 age bracket are also anemic as well. Assam too has a high prevalence of child marriage. Some states have a reduction in child marriage like Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan. Several states are pegged just below the national average. In Odisha, 20.5% of the women were married off before 18 in 2020 and 21 from 21.3% in 2015 and 16. States with high literacy levels and better health and social indices have fared much better on this score. This means in all those states where there is much better educational outcome, they have much better health infrastructure, social indicators in terms of social welfare programs in such states. what we have is minimal child marriages. In Kerala, women who got married before the age of 18 stood at 6.3% in 2019 and 20 from 7.6% in 2015 and 16. Tamil Nadu too has shown improved figures with 12.8% of women in the age group of 20 to 24 years getting married before 18 compared to 16.3% in 2015 and 16. This means that India has witnessed a transition from child marriages. Earlier, we had large number of child marriages, but now we are able to prevent it. What are the negative impacts when it comes to the child marriages? Rights activists and health experts say the consequence of child marriage are dire, not only because it violates children's rights, but also because it results in more infant and mortality deaths as well. Children born to adolescent mothers have a greater possibility of seeing stunted growth as they have low weight at birth. According to NFHS 5, prevalence of child stunting is about 35.5% for the year 2019 and 20. All this means that child marriages violate the girl's human rights. She is entitled to education, but education is taken away from her. She is entitled to her choices, but choices are taken away from her. She is given the right to marriage, but she is not given the right to withdraw from the marriage. She is pushed to the reproductive age as well, and all this leads to violation of the child's human rights. And this also means that women who get married early will have to take care of their families. They engage in domestic labor as well. They have poor nutrition and they suffer from anemia, and they have social isolation. They also go through domestic violence as well, early childbearing as well, and they have no decisions to make. Ultimately, they are not empowered over a period of time. So the cost of child marriage basically includes teenage pregnancy, population growth, child stunting, poor learning outcomes for the children, and ultimately the woman is not able to participate in the economic progress of the country. What are the laws that we currently have? What are the policy interventions taken by the government of India? There are several laws, including the Prohibition of Child Marriage Act of 2006 and the Protection of Children from the Sexual Offences Act of 2012, which aim at protecting children from violation of human and other rights. A parliamentary standing committee is weighing down the pros and cons of raising the age of marriage for women to 21, which has been cleared by the Union Cabinet. This is in reference to what the Government of India is currently thinking. As of now, the marriage age of a woman happens to be 18. So the Government of India is planning to increase it to 21 so that they are given more time to empower themselves. With various personal laws governing marriages in India, the government wants to amend the law, a reform that activists and agencies have said will not be enough to stop the practice of child marriage. Besides, centralized schemes like the Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, which need better implementation on the ground, states have launched many initiatives to improve these factors. For instance, West Bengal's Kanyashree scheme offers financial aid to the girls wanting to pursue higher education. Then we have Rupashri as well, which provides a one-time payment of 25,000 to the poor families at the time of daughter's marriage. And Bihar and other states have been implementing a cycle scheme to ensure girls reach safely to the school, and UP also has a scheme to encourage girls to go back to the school as well. There are many initiatives taken by the state governments, and most of the states also provide conditional cash transfers that have been the main policy instrument introduced by all these states for more than 2 decades to end their marriage. So if a girl is married after 18, there is a conditional cash transfer. So the government transfers a certain amount of money to the parents in order to prevent the child marriages. What needs to be done going forward? What is the way forward with respect to the child marriages? Right workers and welfare officials say a lot more needs to be done on factors closely linked to the child marriage, including eradication of poverty, better education and public infrastructure facilities for children, raising social awareness on health, nutrition, regressive social norms and inequalities. They also stress on all-pronged approach to end the practice. Basically, this will include strong laws where the government needs to come up with laws. These laws will also have to impose penal provisions as well, and these penal provisions should be enforced. In most of the cases, we do have the laws on the paper, but when it comes to implementation, it is not being implemented. So, strict enforcement, preparing an ideal situation on the ground to ensure that the girls with either or below primary level education have experienced higher levels of child marriage as data show, gets education, preferably occasional training as well. This means that they have to be provided with education added to it. Once they are 18, they should also be able to employ themselves. So provide them the skill set so that they are able to earn is what the government of India should look at. Therefore, the solution lies in empowering the girls, creating proper public infrastructure, and addressing all the societal norms as well. One of the other factors that we also tend to forget is about the public order as well as the empowerment. What exactly happens? Most of the parents are also apprehensive, they are also scared. That is why they also get their child married at an early age. Why? Because they are at their older stages. They may not be able to take care of their children. There have been increasing cases of child rapes, child sexual abuse as well. So the government will also have to make sure that law and order is also taken into picture, and whenever women go to travel to work as well, they have to be provided with the transport facilities from the source to the destination. This has to be a safe travel as well. So it is the responsibility of the government to make sure that these issues of rape, sexual assault is also reduced over a period of time. The parents are in an apprehension that if they continue to have the girl in their family, they would not be able to take care of them. As a result, what are the chances of child marriage? It is comparatively more. If the government is able to bring in a proper law and order structure and also able to penalize these perpetrators of crime, that will also prevent such issues as well. So basically, we have to increase the education, access to safe and affordable public transport, provide support to the young women so that they are able to educate themselves, and provide them occasional training so that they are able to earn a livelihood and ultimately expand it at the larger levels. When we say public infrastructure, provide them the schools, provide them the hostels, provide them the sanitation facilities as well, and introduce these in some of the remote areas as well. So this article basically says that we have already taken some measures. Despite these measures, we have to take up some additional measures to prevent child marriages. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says over 64,000 people in India die of snake bites each year. Let us try and understand what is this article all about. First, we have to understand the meaning of snake venom. What exactly happens? We have this snake. The snake has something called as the snake venom. Basically, this is a salivary secretion that is used to kill or digest a prey. Let's say you are close by to the snake. The snake is also in a fear that what if you kill the snake? So what will it do? It will put this venom, or it will inject this venom into your body. So basically, there are two kinds of snake venom. One which affects the nerves, the other is that affects the blood. For example, there are some snakes, when they inject this venom into our body, it harms our nerves. For example, the cobra venom is one such example. Then we also have viper as well. Whenever the venom of the viper enters our bloodstream, this will immediately affect the bloodstream. So basically, snake venom is nothing but the venom that is injected by the snake. It may kill that particular person. It may also have an impact on this person. When we look into the data, nearly 60,000 Indians die of snake bite envenoming each year. There was a study that was conducted. Before this particular study, as given under this article, it was known that India was responsible for up to half of the global deaths due to the snake bites. So for about 100 deaths that were occurring because of the snake bite, it was assumed that 50 would be from India across the entire world. But the current study shows snake bite deaths in India are much higher at almost 80% of the global deaths. So this study has gone ahead and said it is not 50, but it is 80% that is occurring from India. Within India, Uttar Pradesh has the highest number of deaths, estimated to be about 16,100, followed by Madhya Pradesh up to 5,790 deaths, and Rajasthan up to 5,230 deaths. Who are the major sufferers? When it comes to the sufferers, it has to be the farmers. They are the ones who work in the rural areas. They are the ones who engage in the rural cropping. Then you also have the livestock workers as well. It is these people, the gatherers who go to the forest, who are primarily impacted. So farmers, rural croppers, livestock workers, hunters, gatherers, and their children are the ones who are primarily impacted by the snake bites. Added to it, lack of footwear also contributes significantly to the risk of the snake bite for both adults as well as children. So, who are the major sufferers? India's agrarian workers are particularly affected. Their reliance on non mechanized, low cost farming techniques as well as barefoot farming practices place them at higher risk of bites, especially during the monsoons when agriculture activities and snake breeding seasons tend to intersect. Precarious housing conditions, poor lighting, sleeping on the floor, outdoor toilets are other factors associated with the increased risk of the snake encounters. So, what are the health issues? The minute they are bit by the snake, they will have their own share of health issues. It can result in severe paralysis. This may also prevent them from breathing as well. So, the first major issue is paralysis to such people who have been bit by the snake venom, causing bleeding disorders. It may also lead to fatal hemorrhage as well. It can also cause kidney failures in number of people, and there can also be local tissue destruction that can cause permanent disability and limb amputation as well. What are the concerns that are associated with the snake bite? Whenever a person is bit by a snake, this person will have to be provided immediate care. So he has to be rushed to the primary health care, but in many places we do not have the primary health care. We do not have the trained doctors as well. We do not have the anti-snake venoms as well, and this happens to be a primarily disturbing factor. The poorest of the poor who are working in the farms get bitten, they have to rush to the hospitals. Since there are not much hospitals, they go to the quacks who are like the traditional healers. This does not work, and many have passed away as well. There is lack of research, funding is not provided to these antivenoms, and at the same time the government has not taken prioritization of the snake bites, which happens to be one of the neglected tropical disease. Despite such higher number of deaths each year, there is no national strategy to address the burden of snake bite in India. Recently, there is some recognition of snake bite as a public health problem, with the Indian Council of Medical Research launching a national survey to estimate the burden. But the absence of a specific national strategy to address snake bites implies there is no program by the government to either prevent snake bites or preventing deaths or disability in those who are being bitten by the venomous snake. So this means that the government has not been investing much on the research front, and there is no funding to prevent these snake bites. What are the measures that have been taken in the past? Anti-snake venom is the only treatment for snake bites with envenomation. It is provided free at all government hospitals. We need to increase awareness among people and get them to rush to a hospital. So the only measure that they have is to be injected with the anti-venom medicine. Most of the people do not do this. Most of the people do not take up and go up to these hospitals. So an awareness have to be given that you don't have to go to the quacks, you don't have to go to the traditional healers, but take them to the hospital immediately. And all government hospitals by default will have the anti-venom medicine. This is one of the measures taken by the government. Health Ministry has also framed guidelines to be followed by all state health institutions to tackle and deal with serious concern about deaths due to the snake bite. We also have a web application like Serpent providing real-time help to the victims, location of hospitals and related information. So what are the do's and don'ts whenever there is a snake bite? This person will have to be taken immediately to the hospital, so call the ambulance. immobilize the victim. So we have to remove the belt, jewelry, watch, rings, etc. as the bitten area may swell as well. If the ambulance is not able to come on time, somehow rush this particular person immediately to the hospital. Just imagine the Three Idiots movie. What did Amir Khan do? Instead of waiting for the ambulance, he takes a two-wheeler, takes the old person to the hospital. So you don't always have to wait for the ambulance. If you feel that there is an emergency, take that person immediately to the hospital. Transport the victim lying on the left side, right leg bent and hand supporting the face. Patient will breathe better and not choke or vomit, and inform the doctors details of the bite. Anti-venom is the only cure. What are the don'ts? Do not panic. Snake bite is a treatable condition. Say no to faith healing. Do not go to the quacks. Do not cut or suck the bite area. Do not tie, apply ice or massage the bitten area as it causes further damage. Do not self-medicate or apply any herbs or spices. Nothing helps. How to avoid snake bite? Wear a closed pair of shoes while going out. Always use a torch at night. Look where you put your hand or foot. While sleeping on the floor, use a well-tucked mosquito net. Keep home and surroundings clean, clutter-free, and create awareness in communities which help in preventing the snake bite. So these are some of the measures that we should be able to take going forward. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says, redact sensitive portion. Supreme Court gives a way out of sealed cover affidavit. Let us try and understand what is this article all about. We've all heard of the open court concept. What is this open court? Basically, open court or the open justice is where we have the judges, we also have the parties as well. So the advocates representing the parties will be putting out their arguments. So there'll be parties, there'll also be the advocates as well. These advocates will be trying to convince to the court of law, and many others who are not party to this particular case may also listen to it. So this is happening on an open platform where the usual court of the proceedings that happens on a normal mode is the open court. So open court allows the public to inspect what this case is all about. They would be able to listen whether this particular case is going in a right direction or not, and ultimately all the cases in India will usually work on an open court. Then there is an exception to this open court policy. They are called as the in-camera trials. Let's say for example it is a family issue, or let's say for example in POCSO cases as well, or let's say for example it is to do with divorce and something like that. In these cases there are two private parties that are involved. In such cases others may be asked to leave that particular courtroom, which is called as the in-camera trials. So in in-camera trials, other parties may not be allowed to witness what is happening in the court of law. So cases which are sensitive in nature are always heard in closed chambers where other people who are not supposed to stay there, who have nothing to do with that particular case, are asked to leave the court halls. So in open court, any person can come up to that particular court hall. They may be able to see it. So this basically means the public would be able to inspect the case and make an opinion. But in camera trials, only the parties and their advocates and the judge would be present in that particular court, and others will be asked to move out of the court. Then we have what is called as the sealed cover. What is the sealed cover? Basically, in the sealed cover, what exactly happens? You have the court of law. So you have the judge who is seated. Then you also have parties as well. Then you also have the advocates. When it comes to the sealed cover, you have one of the parties. Let's say for example, the one of the party can be Government of India. The Government of India feels that there is some information which is very critical or important from the security standpoint. So what does it do? It gives this particular information only to the court of law, that is to the judge, but the other party is not given this information. So basically in the sealed cover there is one party. This particular party basically believes that there is some important information the other party should not know about it, so it gives this information in a sealed cover so that only the court knows about it and the other party does not know about it. For example, in the Rafael case, we have the government of India which felt that some documents cannot be given to others primarily because it is to do with national security. Let's say in other cases like the National Registry of the Citizens or electoral bond, such information need not be given to the other parties. So such information is put up in a cover, it is sealed and only given to the judges. The other party will not know what is the content in this particular cover, what information has been given by the government or that party to the court of law. So when we speak about sealed cover, what have been the viewpoints of the judges? Justice Chalameshwar said that he would call for sealed cover submissions in situations where information related to the national security. Justice A.P. Shah, retired Chief Justice of Delhi High Court, said he never sought any submissions in a sealed cover except in the rarest of the cases. He would seek such submissions in instances of ongoing criminal investigations. Now the question is, what is the issue to do with the sealed cover? Whenever, let's say we have the Government of India. The Government of India is giving this information to the court of law, which is to the judges of the court. When it is giving this information to the court of law, the first basic principle is fair trial. What is fair trial? Whenever there is an allegation that is made, the other party will also have to prove that this particular allegation is not right. Let's say, for example, I am saying it is that particular person who has cheated me. So I'm making that cheating claim on another person. So what are the proofs that I have? I have this proof that this person has cheated me. So I give it to the court of law. While I give it to the court of law, the same copy should also be produced to another party so that he can look into it and say, no, this is not the authenticate copy. This has been fabricated. So every copy that is given to the court of law should also be given to another party so that there is fair trial, so that the other party is also able to oppose it as well. But if in the sealed cover there are some content, some information put up in a sealed cover given to the court of law, the other party does not know about it. What is the content present in the cover? What are the information given by the government, given by the other party? The other party would not know, and as a result, it is violating the fair trial doctrine. The second is, what we have is the principle of natural justice. What is this principle of natural justice? Every party will have to be heard. But if the other party will also have to be heard, you have to give him the content of what this information is all about. But since this person's content, that is the first party's content, is not given to the second party, it is violating the principles of the natural justice, preventing parties from having a full appreciation of the facts of the case. And ultimately, this whole principle of natural justice is also getting violated. As we initially discussed, one of the bedrock of the judiciary is transparency and accountability. In such a scenario where the other party has to represent himself, he has to stay for himself, he has to speak for himself. If this content is not given, there is violation of transparency and accountability as well. These are some of the concerns to do with the sealed cover doctrine. In order to overcome this particular issue, in order to make sure that there is balance between national security, let's say Government of India is giving this particular cover to the judges. So what we have to take into picture is the national security. This is very important. On the other side, you also have to take care of the other party as well. So in order to balance the national security, in order to balance the viewpoint of the other party, in the present situation has said is that you can go ahead and redact this sensitive information. So if the Government of India feels that there is a security threat, remove only such information, give it to us, but give the rest of the documents also to the opposition party. So the Supreme Court has said this would address both the state's concern about national security and the right to know of the petitioners. Because the other party has to know, you can go ahead and give this information to the other party, but whatever is confidential, whatever is secretive, only those take it out and give it to us, but rest of the information you have to give it to the party. So what the Supreme Court has done is, it has done a balancing act making sure that it addresses the national security on the one side and right to know of the petitioners on the other side. We have some of the landmark judgments that have also been given with respect to the sealed cover in the past. What are these? One is called as the Ram Jethmalani case judgment. What was this judgment all about? In the Ram Jethmalani case, what exactly happened? We have the government of India which has some information. If this information is to do with the fundamental rights, if this information is to do with the fundamental rights, this information will have to be given to the petitioner, to the other party as well. Why? Because the other party's fundamental rights are getting violated. If the state is snatching away the fundamental right of a person, and if the other party does not know what this is all about, in such a case, if it is to do with the fundamental right violation, in such a case, the other party will have to be given this information, said the Supreme Court in the Ram Jethmalani case. In Anuradha Bhasin, the court said sensitive portions in government records can be redacted or such material can be claimed as privileged if the state justify such redaction on the grounds as allowed under the law. So only sensitive information can be withdrawn, but rest of the information should be given to the other party, said the Supreme Court in the Anuradha Bhasin case. Then we also have another case which is SP Velumani case, verdict of May 2022, in which the Supreme Court criticized the Madras High Court's decision to permit a report to remain shrouded in sealed cover when the state had even claimed any specific privilege. So this is what the Supreme Court has said with respect to the sealed cover. So only those which you feel is sensitive, confidential, please avoid it. You need not have to give it to the petitioner, but rest of the content that you feel is not going to impact, you have to share it with the petitioner, says the Supreme Court of India in this case. Now let's look into the next article. This article says, with center's approval, sugar exports to resume. We know for the fact that India is the world's biggest producer of sugar and the second biggest exporter as well. According to the circular that the government of India has made, all grades of sugar like raw material along with the refined sugar can now be exported by the sugar mill, refinery, exporter up to a notified limit. So the government allowed the export of 6 million tons of sugar on a quota basis till May 31st according to a food ministry notification. As per the notification, the ministry allocated a uniform quota of 18.23% for 3 years average production of the sweetener in operational sugar seasons. What is this export all about? What is the notification that has been released by the central government will be explained in detail in our economy this week. So stay tuned to our economy this week. Now let's look into the mains practice questions. Child marriage violates children's rights, place them at higher risk of violence, exploitation and abuse in the light of the statement. Discuss the measures to be taken to eliminate harmful practices such as child, early and forced marriages. Next question. India is among the countries dramatically affected by snake bite. Write a note on India's efforts to prevent and control the menace of snake bites. So please write all your answers on the comment section. If you wish to upload an image, you can also visit our website, upload your image as well, and also have a discussion with your fellow parents. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.